How do? Welcome back. Well, it's brew day again. Again, another small batch recipe for the book. This is going to be, actually I've just got to check my time because I've just put my steeping grains into the tea urn. So I've just got to make sure I take a note of the time. Yeah, it's another small batch for the book. This is going to be an English bitter, but with a little bit of a modern twist because I'm going to flavour it with Citra hop. It's going to come out at about 35 IBU, and what I've got steeping now is just a little bit of crystal 60 lover bond and a very small amount, about 50 grams of 120 lover bond crystal, dark crystal, and that's going to steep now for about half an hour. And the reason I'm using just a small amount is because I'm trying to get rid of my medium malt. I don't really find much use for it, and I've got 3 bags of this, 500 grams, and I'm thinking, you know what, let's put it in a bitter and we'll see what it comes out like. So I've got 3 bags, that'll be 1.5 kilogram of medium malt, so I don't really need that much flavour or colour probably from the steeping malts, but I'm hoping that, especially using some dark crystal, it'll give some toastiness, some roastiness, which maybe you won't get from this. So that's my thinking anyway. It's probably going to turn out to be a really dark bitter. I would imagine medium, that's going to give you like your copper amber colour base, and then of course I'm going to be sticking some more in, so that's why I've kept the numbers very low. Right, I'm going to open one of these because it's ready. This is Mangrove Jack's Grapefruit IPA, and it's been in the fridge now for about 3 or 4 hours. Kindly sent to me as a Christmas present from Pierre, whose YouTube channel is Simply Homebrew. That's a really nice beer. It does actually say on the pouch it's meant to be a golden colour beer though. Mine's come out like an amber. I just made it as per instructions, except to change the yeast. Well, I didn't change the yeast, I used the yeast. It's a Mangrove Jack's, I think it's M44 West Coast American ale, but because of the weather conditions it was brewed at about 15 degrees and it was doing absolutely nothing. I left it for about 2 or 3 days. It was all on the bottom, so I whacked in some Nova Lager. So technically speaking it's probably a lager, and it was brewed at about 15-16 degrees. It was done in a week. I've bottled, and that is a really nice beer. It won't clear up fully because the kit actually comes with, I forgot which hops it is. I think it's Amarillo or something else. There's 2 hops and you get quite a nice pack of hops weight wise, and you dry hop, and I just threw them in. I didn't use a hop sock or anything like this. So you are going to get a haziness to it just from the minute hop matter that's in there. But that is looking a really nice beer. It's not golden though, it's definitely an amber, a nice amber copper colour. Okay, it smells of grapefruit. What do you think? Nice grapefruit aroma. It's been chilled, so I'm not picking up much malt, but I do know when it's warmer you do pick up some nice sweet malt. And a little bit of another citrus in there, like a tangerine, orangey, that sort of citrusiness. So not just grapefruit. Right, cheers everyone, I'm going in. That's a beautiful beer. That is really nice. Thank you very much, Pierre. Thank you. Cheers. What a nice beer. Not overly complicated flavour wise. This has been chilled, so the malts are very subdued, but there is some sweetness there. just to balance out the citrusiness. And flavour wise, you get that sharp grapefruit and then these other citrus notes as well. That's really nice. Thank you very much, Pierre. That's a nice beer. Mangrove Jack's Grapefruit IPA. It's about 5.7% according to the pack. I don't actually do hydrometer readings with kits. I usually find it pretty much spot on. But this is brewed with Nova Lager, so there's that nice crisp lagery quality to it. Yeah, that's a really nice beer. Right, so what I wanted to actually just quickly mention today is that I've decided in my book, rather than actually give IBUs, I'm going to use what's called HBUs, or homebrew bitterness units, or home bitterness units. Basically, this is just a standard unit, because at the end of the day, as homebrewers, if we say, okay, I'm going to be using this hop and it's this alpha acid, that could be hard to replicate for somebody else, because they may be buying a hop from a different supplier, it's a different season, it's a different alpha acid. So what homebrew units do is sort of like just standardize everything. So I've worked out how to calculate IBUs. My clone book actually has the formula, but it's for imperial measurements. And what I've done is converted that into metric, because I use metric weights being in the UK. And I've worked out the formula. Using their formula as a base, I've worked out the metric version. And pretty much when you look at online IBU calculators, it's in the same ballpark. I use several IBU calculators. None of them are the same, but they're all in the same ballpark. And my formula is also in that ballpark, so I'm pretty confident with it. And it's very simple. Basically what you do is you multiply the alpha acids by your weight in grams, and then you multiply that by a utilization factor. Now there's different ones on the internet. In fact, the book, that clone book, which I can't find right now, but that clone book I have, they use a very low utilization. For a half-hour boil, which is what I'm doing here today, they say 15%, but most of the online references I was reading, they're about 20% or 22%, something like that. So I'm using, for a half-hour boil, it's 20. So it's your weight in hops, times it by the alpha acid, times by 20 for a 30-minute boil, or 30 for a 60-minute boil. And then what you do is you take that result and you divide it all by the litres that you're brewing, or that you'll be fermenting, typically 23, in this case it's 12, and then you times that by a constant. Now, the clone book had it at 1.5 using imperial measurements, so they weren't using litres, they weren't using grams, it was all ounces and fluid ounces. I had to play around with this for a bit, but the constant for metric is 10.5. So imperial 1.5, metric 10.5. So that big calculation at the start, you divide it all by the litres that you're going to ferment times 10.5, and that gets you pretty much within 1 point of your IBU that you would find on a calculator, online calculator. So that's why I know that this beer, I'm using 6.5% as bittering hop alpha acid. I'm going to use 35 grams of it, and then you times that by 20, because I'm just doing a half-hour boil, and then you divide that, in my case, by 12 litres, times it by the constant 10.5, comes out at about 35.55556. Just a 6 at the end. So it's 35.5 IBUs, which I think for an English bitter is about, you know, bang on where it should be. And yeah, and then I'm just going to flavour it with some Citra, because I've got some left over from the rye beer, where I did a Simcoe Citra hop rye beer, and that should be ready for tasting next week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. It is, I use 600 grams of rye, and I'm thinking of pulling it back a bit, because it's quite in your face, spicy, which is taken away from some of those nice tropical fruits and the citrusiness of the hops. So I'm going to have to just rein back on the rye. It's very rye-like, let's just say that, but I'll review it next week. I'm going to enjoy this, and I've still got about 15 minutes to go before I can get this brew on, so yeah, I'm going to enjoy this in the meantime. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.